Digicel TV, home of rugby league. Dial *515# to subscribe.
Hello and welcome. This is the Midday News. I'm Maricela Calaton. The PNG Assembly of Disabled Persons is pushing for the government to endorse the National Disability Authority Act by this year. The Assembly's male co-chairman and chairman of the New Ireland Provincial Branch, Medley Laban, said the draft act has gone back for editing and once finalized would be put through Parliament. Speaking in Kokopo during a 3-day training of trainers on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for the NGI region. Laban said though the PNG government signed the convention in 2013, there has been very slow progress in terms of implementation. The training included discussions on how the organization can push the advocacy and adaptation of the convention that focuses on the inclusiveness of PLWDs. The participants are expected to conduct advocacy on the convention to the provincial government as well as the private sector. Disgruntled service providers across Medan Province gathered in front of the Provincial Treasury Office on Thursday, wanting definite answers to the stance of their outstanding claims and payments. The service providers wanted clarification on when their bills will be settled, some of them which date back almost 2 years. They claim that some delayed payments go back at least 15 months, affecting respective business operations. They say amounts owed range between 100,000 kina to more than 1 million kina, depending on the type of services rendered to the provincial administration. The service providers have agreed for a meeting with Provincial Finance Manager George Memke, Provincial Administrator Frank Lau, and Medan Governor Ramsey Pariwa next Tuesday, July 11 at the Bates Oval.
Now, I'm 7 months now. Since law administration we start, me play no say. First check do this year or any financial year, I'm say people say all say number 2 month, number 3 month. Now I'm number 7 month. Now na me play all service providers too me play things. You play triple man. Governor, PA, na you. You play by survey, money, warrant companies lo province. You talking me blah. CFC release finish, you talking this la process that's all. Society hold up yeah. You mean you can stream talk. I'm number 7 munya.
Progress has been recognized in the provision of updates on the government developments by the PNG Department of Information and Communication Technology. DICT Secretary Stephen Matainaho provided updates on these developments and extended an invitation to all digital transformation officers in provinces and district executives to participate in a pre-launch conference and workshop, which started on Monday, July 3rd and ended yesterday. DICT made progress in its efforts to standardize government domain names, emails, and websites, marking a significant milestone in the country's digital transformation journey. The pre-launch this month has served as a pivotal platform for knowledge sharing, collaboration, and addressing challenges associated with the digitalization of government services. Teachers from East Okapa and West Okapa LLGs attended a recent week-long training on standard-based curriculum at Tarabo Primary School. Okapa District Education Manager Dick Penai and Senior Inspector Basic Education Mupe Kaupa opened the training for more than 300 teachers.
360 teachers from schools in East and West Okapa LLG in Eastern Highlands Province congregated at Tarabo Primary School in West Okapa recently for in-service training in standard-based curriculum, an exercise that is being conducted for most primary schools across the country as the Education Department prepares to fully implement the SBC in 2024. Okapa Standard School Inspector Helen Hutu said the in-service was revived for Okapa District. Upskilling of teachers to present the SBC in the classroom was lacking. Hutu said this meant that learning becomes hard for students because teachers cannot plan lessons.
Our theme now is Okapa teachers regardless of the sector, either elementary, primary or high school, TVET. We don't count a sector. Now we are all one team under education.
Facilitator and headmaster of Dr. Alpha's Memorial Primary School, Omar Koka, said they facilitated on planning and programming with teachers, introduced SBC terminologies, took assessments and unpacked lessons from Teacher's Guide from yearly, weekly and termly overview and lessons planning. Facilitators said the refresher really helped teachers over the 3 days of intense workshop. There are plans to hold an in-service training for Okapa teachers each year with subject content. Rex Lita, TV1 News.
In regional news, New South Wales health authorities are warning children are being seriously affected by the flu this season, with many admitted to hospital and around a dozen in intensive care.
Here is shaping up to be another record-breaking flu season, particularly among children. Here in New South Wales, more than half of those presenting to the emergency department right across the state with influenza-like symptoms are young people under the age of 16 years old. There's also been nearly a dozen admissions into the intensive care unit for those flu cases. Now, that's not only of concern to emergency departments with the added pressure, but also to the state's Chief Health Officer, Dr. Kerry Chant, who says many presenting to the ICU with flu-like symptoms don't have previous underlying medical conditions. But this isn't just an isolated event, it's being reflected right across the country. According to the latest data from the National Surveillance Report for Influenza, which commences its reporting from the start of the flu season in April this year, there's been nearly 70% of those who have confirmed influenza cases to be young people under the age of 16 years old as well. Now, authorities are attributing the high intake in flu this year to the low vaccination rates right across the country. They say that those vaccination rates have never fully recovered from pre-pandemic levels. According to the latest data, only 22% of children under the age of 5 have received their flu inoculation this year, and that's simply not enough. So authorities are pushing that message across the line to urge parents to make sure their children get the flu vaccine. It is free for young people under the age of 5 years old if they go to their GP or local pharmacy. The other message that's also being pushed across the line today is urging parents to make sure if their child is ill to keep them home, not only to protect them, but also to protect others.
A group of senior Walpiri women in Central Australia have created a new resource kit aimed at breaking cycles of trauma in their remote desert community, as UN Dumu continues to suffer significant poverty as well as violence and unrest.
To the future, these senior Walpiri women dream of safe families with healed spirits.
We can help grow up our kids to be strong, not to see violence, anything.
But they fear in their remote desert community of Yundamu, early childhood trauma is leaving deep scars.
Our trauma affect our lives and affect our children in this community.
Like many remote Aboriginal communities, Yundamu has faced significant challenges, suffering violence and unrest, and shocking levels of overcrowding and poverty.
When I was looking at the kids walking past, fighting, angry, all that, that's what trauma is. And so I thought to myself, and I'll write something about this.
This week, the group has launched a new resource in language aimed at breaking cycles of trauma. The kit includes a Walpurgi meditation, a board game, feelings cards and a storybook to help families better understand trauma and heal from it.
It's for our kids in future.
The NT government says this kit is the first of its kind in Australia, and there's already calls for a similar resource in other communities.
We want Yundemu to be a peace place.
Sharing hope for the future.
Hundreds of Palestinian families in the West Bank city of Jenin are now homeless after a two-day Israeli military operation. The military battle with Palestinian militants also caused widespread damage across the city, including from drone strikes.
I'm in Jenin refugee camp and I want to show you some of the damage that's been left behind here after 2 days of fighting. It was earlier this week that the Israeli military launched a major operation here in the Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank. The roads have been absolutely destroyed. They were ripped up by these big Israeli bulldozers. Israel says they were looking for explosive roadside bombs, but it's left this massive damage that you can see. In the same time, it's also ripped up water lines and power lines. So now a lot of this camp doesn't have access to power and electricity. Over the 2 days, they say they were looking for Palestinian militants, and there was a lot of gunfighting that took place. Most of the homes here now are littered with this, as you can see. Bullet holes after bullet holes, evidence of what has been 2 days of brutal and bloody fighting. At least 12 Palestinians were killed. Israel says the majority of them were militants. A number of them were teenagers, and one Israeli soldier was killed during the fighting as well. But there are thousands of people in this camp who didn't take place in the fighting. We can just hear some gunfire happening at the moment, but that's a bit away from us. As I was saying, thousands of people here who didn't take place in the fighting, and this is what they've been left with. They say that they are now the victims of collective punishment by Israel.
I worked a lot, I suffered a lot to build this house. I made it beautiful. To come back and see my house destroyed like this is something I can't imagine. My kids and my wife, I haven't brought them here because I know how difficult this is going to be on them.
This has been the biggest Israeli military operation here in the West Bank in about 2 decades. The last time that anyone in the West Bank saw any sort of damage like this, extensive damage with roads being ripped up, homes being destroyed, it was during the second Intifada, the second Palestinian uprising in the early 2000s. And so people here have told us of their shock and disbelief at the military tactics that have been used. Aerial missile strikes, grenades, helicopter warships that have been dropping missiles into the camp. More than 1,000 on-the-ground troops that came in here as part of this military operation. Israel says it was targeting Palestinian militants, and it hasn't ruled out further operations like this in the future.
3 young female athletes will be representing Papua New Guinea at the Commonwealth Youth Games in Trinidad and Tobago this August. Judy Mitchell, Suaira Goye and Christina Moyang, all taking part in athletics, were selected by the PNG Olympic Committee earlier this year after consideration by the Justification Committee. They will travel with coach Subul Babo. Mike Mitchell was outstanding at the 2022 PNG Air National Championships in Port Moresby, where she won both the 100-meter and 200-meter in the under-18 division. 16-year-old Moyang took on the tracks in 2020 as a 13-year-old long-distance runner, winning the 1500-meter in the under-16 division at the National Championships. Goye was identified after making an impression during the junior long-distance training camp at the National Sports Institute in January. The athletes fly out to Gold Coast, Australia next week for a lead-up competition and a 2-week training camp before joining up with Team PNG on August 1st for the journey to Port of Spain, Trinidad. It's official. The Momasa Regional Youth Games will commence on September 25 to 30 at the Lawaiden Oval in Medan. This week, the official host contract signing took place between the Regional Youth Games Council Director General for National Youth Development Authority, Joe Itaki, and the Momase Regional Youth Games Committee and Medan Provincial Administrator Frank Lau. The games will see participants from East and West Sepik, Morabe, and Medan convene in Medan town. A total of 26 districts participated to meet at Lawaiden Oval and play 4 sports codes: soccer, volleyball, basketball, and rugby nines. Medan Provincial Administrator Frank Lau said for far too long Medan has been a spectator in such events. He is elated that the committee is bringing the Momase Regional Youth Games to his province.
Yes, youth development is very important. Very important because you are the futures of this province. And not only this province, but publicly. And with that, I would like to say thank you for choosing Medan to host our games. Plenty of times in the media where always seems to be a lot of negatives on us, but I think we have done something good in the past, so you guys have chosen us. We, as an administration, as a government, as a people, we will support it. Because youth development is very important. In the province, we have these issues about youth all the time. We have a lot of problems here and there. Youth all the time involving in too many media, WhatsApp groups, Facebooks. Youth have been sitting idle for too long. And this is something we can keep our youth busy. And especially, we have chosen Medan to host the Momase Games, which is good for us. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Join us at 6 tonight for more news.